Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Daredevil number 183, cover dated June 1982. Now, this cover speaks for itself. It is extremely eye-catching, featuring the Punisher shooting point blank Daredevil right through the gut. And we see the exit wound here. We don't see the bullet coming out, but we see an exit wound. It looks pretty brutal. And what's really intriguing about this particular issue is that it repurposes an issue of Daredevil from 2 years previously, issue 167, which was spiked by the Comics Code Authority. So that issue concerned drugs and young people's drug use, and the Comics Code did not approve it at the time. But a couple of years later, Frank Miller made the argument that Marvel should push harder for the publication of the story. He felt it was a good story that had been co-plotted with Roger Mackenzie, the writer at the time, and got that approval and repurposed the pages for a new two-parter, this issue and the next, featuring the Punisher. So let's open this one up to the first page, and the story opens in a classroom with this particular young student, Mary O'Coran, who is having an hallucinatory attack on the basis of some drugs she's taken. So we've got these horizontal panels, the close-up on her pupil there, her wide open eyes. She's hallucinating that she's covered in snakes. They fell in her hair and now they're wriggling up her leg and slithering down her throat. What's wrong with Sister Helen? Why doesn't she do something? Can't she see them? So it's a dramatic opening to the issue. We've got Matt Murdock happens to be there talking about the law to the school children. She's frothing at the mouth. She's hallucinating badly. The snakes are going into her ears and they whisper awful things to her. And when she tries not to listen, they bite her and fill her with so much dark, burning poison that her head is going to burst. And this is a wild image here. You can see the body contorting as she's leaping towards the window and smashes right out the window of the schoolroom. And meanwhile, Matt, in these great silent panels, is exiting the classroom, making his way into a storeroom, changing into Daredevil. And all the while, the girl is falling to the ground, and there she is in a crumpled heap on the ground with these fragments of glass falling on her body. So the title of the story, Child's Play. The creative team, Roger Mackenzie, Frank Miller, Klaus, Janson, all credited as creators. These are the writers, these are the artists. And as I said, it's a really interesting specimen of a comic, because there are pages here in this issue that are as they were originally drawn and scripted back for 167. It never ran, that particular issue. It was advertised in 166 as the Punisher coming up next. He never showed up, but these a lot of the pages are in here, but there's also new pages. So the new pages have Miller's signature later style, the horizontal panels, the silent panels, the more open layout, and the older pages have a more boxy layout. I'll point out some of the pages that I've confirmed by checking out the original art online, where it's indicated that they were originally drawn for 167 in the margins. The rest of the creative team, Klaus Janson on colors, Joe Rosen letters. And there's a special thanks here to Ed Pollock and Ken Dias of Phoenix House for the technical assistance. That concerns the particular drug in question, which this school child has taken, which happens to be PCP, aka angel dust, it's a pretty weird one for school children to be taken for any reason whatsoever. There's kind of bizarre elements to this story. But in any case, here we are with one of those original pages from 2 years earlier. So we have Frank Miller pencils, Klaus Janson inks here rather than finishes. And you can see that the change in the layout. This is the older layout that he was using at the very beginning of his run on the title before he developed his signature layouts and his innovative layouts later on in the title when he was writer artist and had more control over the balance of story and visuals. So Daredevil emerges out here onto the playground. The coach is there, Coach Donahue. He'll turn up in the next issue as well, so keep an eye on him. He picks up the body of Mary, the school child. She's still alive. Sometimes I'm happy for the accident that blinded me, he thinks, and amplified my remaining senses. Sometimes I'm grateful for the world of sound and smell. It opened up for me, a world no other man can share. Sometimes not now. I can feel her shattered ribs, her crushed vertebrae. I can hear her heartbeat slowing, stopping. And he makes it to the hospital. I pray I'm in time. And the reason he takes her bodily and carries her to the hospital is because it was going to take way too long for the ambulance to arrive. It might take up to 15 minutes and she doesn't have that amount of time. So he makes it to the hospital. Again, just look at these pages. These are the original pages from two years previous. And you can see the difference in the layouts here, how much more packed these pages are with dialogue as well, which was, this is all Roger Mackenzie dialogue in the mouths of these characters. It's so intriguing, such an interesting issue for it to have been repurposed in the way it was. So the doctor comes here and we get all this technical detail about the drug, angel dust, and the girl is dead. Too late, Daredevil. We're too late. She died on the operating table. If we'd had another few minutes, if not for the drugs, we might have saved her. So then you get a lot of detail here about angel dust and what it does to how it's used even. Sprinkled on mint leaves, tobacco or marijuana and smoked. A lot of detail here. That's why those two guys earlier were credited. All the details here from the doctor. And then Mary had a brother, Billy. And Billy wants to see his sister, but she's dead, of course. Daredevil gives him the news. The boy is deeply upset, naturally. And here he asks some sharp questions. How can Mary be dead when the two bums who killed her are still alive and pushing their crap out on the streets? Well, I know who they are. And you can tell Hogman and his slimy partner that when I find them, I'm going to blow their brains out. So this little plot line carries over also into the subsequent issue. So Billy's off out for revenge, and Daredevil is out investigating. There's some good narrative caption here about the darkness, how darkness doesn't descend on Hell's Kitchen. It spews up from shadowed doorways and back alleys and far-gutted tenements, as if bloated and blackened from a day's worth of pain and misery and suffering, or perhaps as if hungry for more. That's pretty good. So, Daredevil is somewhat disguised in civilian garb, and he's out to find Hogman. That's not much to go on, just a nickname, but I've got to find that pusher and his slimy partner before Billy does, for all their sakes. So Daredevil goes off in search of Hogman while Billy O'Coran stalks home. His parents there, oblivious to him in the background. That reminds me of Carrie Kelly's parents in Dark Knight Returns as well, also oblivious to their child. And to the death of their daughter. It doesn't make any sense, but in any case, they're self-absorbed and not concerned about their son or their dead daughter. Meanwhile, Billy finds his father's gun, something hard and cold and filled with death, just like his sister. So again, more of the original pages. We've got this scene here where this street pusher is calling out for Hogman, but it's not Hogman who answers the door, it's Flapper, who must be his slimy associate. And he gives him the angel dust for the money there and tells Joey to beat it. So Joey's here smoking the angel dust and getting high on it. This is a nice sequence of panels here, lighting up the pipe, it looks like, just the light on his face, and then taking in the drug and then getting the hit from the drug as well. Really nicely done. And then the trio come after. They're very unlucky to do it. They corner Daredevil They don't know it's him, of course. This little scene here, this little top-down angle on this street corner reminds me of the scene at the opening of Dark Knight Returns with Bruce, 55-year-old Bruce, who's also hassled by some street thugs, the mutants. And yeah, just little kind of previews of things to come from Miller in the artwork on this. So anyway, they ill-advisedly tackle Daredevil. They're high on the angel dust, so they're fearless. They start beating on him, but one of them throws a knife in the back of the other and kills him, stabbed through the heart. He's dead. But who could have done that? Oh, no, it's not one of them that throws the knife. So when we turn the page, it'll turn out to be the Punisher, Frank Castle. So this is really cool. And that was who was originally slated to be, the guest star of 167. So these are all original pages from 2 years previously. This is a great shot of the Punisher running, sprinting towards the street thugs. And this is the first encounter of Daredevil and the Punisher. It's a man. My built-in radar is picking him up now. He's big. His heartbeat is strong. His movement's confident, fluid. He's in excellent shape, and he's a killer. And that's a great close-up, three-quarter profile close-up on the Punisher's face. He really looks determined. Great dialogue as well, straight out of the Dirty Harry movies. Look at me, punks. Remember my face. It's the last thing you're ever going to see, and I want you to carry the memory of it straight to hell. That dialogue is hilarious. It is so good. Daredevil, meanwhile, thinking here, the sound of a gun bolt being shoved back. He's going to murder them. Still groggy from that blow I took, too weak to. I have to save them. So, of course, this is the never-ending philosophical difference between Daredevil and the Punisher. Daredevil's a vigilante, but he does not kill. The Punisher's a vigilante, street-level vigilante like Daredevil, but he does kill. The ultimate sanction. And in particular, he kills anyone who has anything to do with the drugs trade. Absolutely despises them because of what happened to his family in Central Park. So here we go. Daredevil throws a trash can at Punisher. And this is funny too. So the Punisher is wondering who's thrown the trash can at him, and he sees that it's Daredevil, and this is what he says. Remember, this is their first meeting. I've read about you, Daredevil. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm the Punisher. Perhaps you've heard, he was about to say, of me. And then this guy, Flapper, gets shot in the back. So, more brutal violence. Punisher recognizes him from his files. I've been looking for the bum. Daredevil thinking yet another death. And this is a great panel. So we've got this kind of worm's eye view of Punisher there. Borderless panel. Punisher holding up the corpse of Flapper. He's scragged. Someone saved me the trouble. Meanwhile, Daredevil's bouncing up to the roof. Hogman's partner gunned down in the street. And I've got an awful feeling I know who pulled the trigger. The shot came from this rooftop. If I hurry, drop the gun, he says as he alights on the edge of the rooftop. Great lighting here as well. I love the colouring of the street lights, yellow to orange to almost red. The gradation of colours there in Janson's colours. And who could this be? Of course, we have to imagine it's Billy. And it is. And he has shot his pistol. Billy, give me the gun, please. I wanted to kill him. Mary more than anything in the world. But I fired over the head. I'm sorry, Mary, I couldn't do it. So he's completely focused on his sister. I just couldn't. But what does he mean he couldn't do it? He shot the gun, but over Flapper's head. Later in Family Court. These are all original pages again from 2 years previously. So now we have this courtroom business scene. Matt is determined to defend Billy. And the lady prosecutor says, and I'll see you in court, Murdoch. This is one case you aren't going to win. And outside, Matt says to Billy, he says, Coach Donahue, sorry, everybody thinks I did. Coach Donahue doesn't. Neither do I. Don't give up on us or the courts. The law works, Billy. Just give it a chance. Later, though, Daredevil pays a visit to Ben Urich. And he's looking for information about the Punisher. So Urich's got his files here. various characters: Papadopoulos, Prentice, Pulitzer. The Pulitzer file is the story of Matt Murdock's origin as Daredevil, but it's one that Uric keeps in his files but is determined not to print because he thinks that Matt does more good than otherwise with his secret identity. And then he comes on the Punisher. Haven't got much on him, he says. He's a vigilante like you. And again, that difference between Daredevil and Punisher. Daredevil says, not like me. He kills. That he does, lots, says Uric. Uses guns mostly, makes his own. And they say he never misses a shot. Good with his hands too. Aced 12 men during a recent stint in prison. That was the previous issue. And you want to go up against him? And Daredevil says, that's my job. Again, another original page here from 167. Later, here's where, and this is a great piece of procedural business and a great use of perspective as well, and architectural design on this page. Here's where Billy stood when Flapper was shot, thinks Daredevil. He'd just crossed 93rd and Broadway, heading west. My radar sense makes it 75 yards minimum. Billy fired an old automatic, an inaccurate, unreliable, worn handgun. He's lucky it didn't explode in his face. He'd have to be even luckier to hit a moving target at this distance. But somebody on a higher ledge behind him. So then he climbs up to this higher ledge. Somebody with a rifle and telescopic sight would have had a relatively easy, unobstructed shot, he thinks. It's a nice theory, but without evidence to support it, I'm back to square one. My super sensitive hearing's like a sort of built-in lie detector. I know Billy's telling the truth, but I can't prove it. Maybe I'm jumping at shadows, but he's searching for shell casings there. He doesn't find any. But I really like that. I like the way that he's over here at the edge of the rooftop. He's thinking through how Billy couldn't have hit Flapper, how somebody up higher with different equipment could have done it, and then he climbs up to this point from here. I like that. And then he bounces off of that, continuing his investigations. Really nicely designed and done by Miller. And now he finds a spent shell, recently fired too. But from this angle, the killer would have had to aim through the narrow space between those chimneys. Why did he pass up a much easier shot from the upper ledge? It doesn't make sense, unless for some reason he couldn't climb. So I like the way he's thinking through things here. Then Punisher's still on the job. I want the Hogman junkie, and I'm betting you know where he is. So he's beating up a junkie, spill it junkie or so help me, and then Daredevil gets involved. Uses his billy club to knock Punisher off the junkie, lay off him Punisher, there's no need to. And then we have what we've been looking for and expecting, the fight between Punisher and Daredevil. But of course, Daredevil has his martial arts training, and Punisher is a military trained man. So who is going to best the other in the fight? Well, what happens is they kind of break even here as the Punisher pulls this handgun from the pouch on his leg and hits Daredevil's billy club dead center and blows it apart. Great little DeLuca effect here, a 1-2. And now Punisher makes an offer to Daredevil. Daredevil, if we must fight, let it be as allies. Together we could terrorize the underworld, eliminate the enemy we share. But again, the philosophical difference between the two. Daredevil responds, whether you kill innocents or criminals, it's murder. And that makes us enemies, Punisher. I'm bringing you in, just like any common, and he was about to say criminal, but he's punched in the jaw. That's got to hurt. As Punisher pulls yet another handgun from a pouch on the side of his other boot. So the Punisher incredibly well armed for doing what he does, but nicely drawn and smooth storytelling from Miller. Again, these are all original pages, and Punisher. This is more or less the image from the cover. The cover's a more elaborated version of this little scene where Punisher shoots him in the gut, but it turns out it was a tranquilizer dart. I shot him with a tranquilizer dart, he says to the junkie, and starts beating on him again. And here we get a little psychology. I want you to feel this, says the Punisher. I want you to suffer as I've suffered. And of course, that's the Punisher's origin story. He's bereaved. His wife, his 2 children, shot dead in the middle of a gang war in Central Park over the drugs trade. So, and I like the magenta heartbeat line here indicating the junkie's staggering heart, and then it stops. He flatlines. Punisher walks away. Daredevil's recovering from the beating he received, and the beating and the tranquilizer dart most particularly. But here he is as a hero, working on the junkie to get his heart started again, undo the damage the Punisher did. The Punisher won't take a life, not another one, he yells out. And then the junkie recovers, his heartbeat returns, and he gives up the information to the man who saved him that Hogman is at Papa's. Easy, friend. First we get us both some medical attention, then we talk. And at Papa's restaurant, Olympian Palace, so it must be a Greek restaurant, food of the gods, it says there. And here is the Hogman, and his nickname is descriptive of his physical appearance. There he is, munching into a huge sandwich, and Daredevil turns up at the booth and he says, "Better lay off the carbohydrates, Hogman. Makes it hard to climb up rooftops." Know what I mean? So now Daredevil reckons that it was Hogman who shot his partner, Flapper. Flapper was bleeding your drug racket dry. He figured he'd cut you out. He didn't figure you'd put a bullet through his back. That was his mistake. Yours was being born. That's so hilarious. And Hogman says here, "You can't pin that rap on me, Devil. I got friends. Take 'em, guys." So are these 2 muscle guys gonna act in Hogman's to help him? By the way, something I want to note here is the original art for this page is online. You can see this online. And up here it has the indication that it was drawn for 167. But over the page, the scene plays out. Again, the original art. "Take who, Hogman? I don't see anybody," says the thug. "You see anybody, Nix?" "Only hero I see is a sandwich." So, no honor among thieves or drug dealers even. And Daredevil hauls Hogman off. And the junkie gives his evidence on the stand. So Billy's released, and he is a free boy. And here, though, Hogman is to be arrested and charged with the murder of Flapper. But he says here, "No, wait, you're making a mistake. I didn't kill Flapper." And here we see the magenta indication of his steady heartbeat. And Matt thinks to himself, he sure sounds convincing. Wait a minute, his heartbeat didn't jump. Hogman's telling the truth. He didn't kill his partner. Now, what we'll discover in the next issue is that we can see his heartbeat didn't jump, but there's other explanations possible as to why that is, rather than the inference that Matt draws, which is that he isn't lying, he didn't kill his partner. But we'll discover all of that in the next issue. It's clever stuff that Miller's thought up there. Like a little, what would we say, like an Achilles heel for Daredevil's use of the heartbeat to determine whether somebody's lying or not. And here, this is a really interesting page because the original art for this page is online, but it's not this layout. So this scene, you will find it in issue 1, drawn for 167, but it's a 9-panel grid, and Miller must have decided he didn't like that anymore, and so he completely redrew it. Also redid the dialogue here. This is Miller's dialogue rather than Mackenzie's. So he's redone the page entirely, and we have his classic horizontal, the ones that he developed later, horizontal layouts here. and a little trick that he did in the previous issue or two with the Punisher, where he's doing his exercise. He's going through his exercise regimen, and he's listening to the TV, or in the case of the previous issue, was listening to a CIA agent, and he just stops in the middle of one of his repetitions here, listening. His attention is caught with what's being said on the TV, and then we get that tight close-up on his eyes. We know he's attending to what's going on. So really what's happening is we're getting the news of the court case regarding John Flapper Phillips. The story doesn't end there. We switch now to Jane Janson on the steps of the Manhattan Criminal Courts building. So Jane says, I'm speaking with renowned attorney Matthew Murdoch, who has just told me that he plans to represent Peter Hogman Grunter. What a great second name. That's such a funny thing, Hogman Grunter, who was being charged in the Phillips murder. Matt, Jane, my client is innocent. So that's what's got Punisher's attention there. He deserves the best defense possible. I intend to make sure he gets it. And Punisher here, completely silent, puts down the weights, picks up his rifle, close up on his cold face. We know he's going after Hogman now to kill him. Central Park, the scene switches. Now this is all new. So this is Frank Miller breakdowns here, but Klaus Janson Klaus Janson finishes. Same on this page too. Frank Miller breakdowns, Klaus Janson finishes. So not every page in this issue is the original pages from the original 167. There are new pages, especially here at the end of the issue. So in Central Park, we've got Matt and Heather. Heather's having some problems with her company. I think the board of directors is trying to take my position away from me. She says, I'm going to fight them. And Matt responds, do you think you should, Heather? Is that wise? Why not? I'm an executive now. I've been taking classes and everything. And he stands up and says to her, Heather, you inherited your father's business, not his business skills. Be realistic, darling. Put yourself on a stipend and resign. You haven't the head for this sort of thing. And she gets up, naturally enough, and starts walking away. You think I'm just a silly little girl, don't you? I've got to find something to do with my life. Can't you understand that? I feel so purposeless. So here we go. Now remember, in the previous issue, Matt was basically had a nervous breakdown with the death of Elektra, was of the crazy opinion that she was somehow still alive. And at the end of the issue, he admitted that he loved her and still loved her to the end. So, but Heather Glenn is his girlfriend. And what's he going to do now? Break up with her? No. He says, I can give you purpose, Heather. I need you. Only recently I've come to realize how much I need you. That close up on his eye, that kind of like sad expression in the eye. But he's not being honest here about Elektra. There's a hole in me, a great black hole that you could fill. So he's still grieving, and now he's going to do something rash. I want to share my life with you. She says nothing. Turn the page. Get past these ads. Boom. Marry me. So he's proposing to her. Wow. What a great image as well. So Frank Miller breakdown on this, breakdown pencils, but Klaus Janson on the inks here. And kind of like, it looks like a dry brush technique for the texture of those rocks there. Really great artwork. Yeah. Next, good guys wear red. New York City is held hostage and only a blind man can save it. The letters here about Daredevil 170. There you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Daredevil 183. Let me know your thoughts about this issue in the comment section to the video. If you enjoyed my review, please like the video on YouTube. It really helps the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.